Hey, this is Chris Connors back again in the BigDM studios. It's Black History Month, and man, there's a lot to talk about for sure. We've got some folks that are very instrumental in our history and telling the story of our history in Columbia that are going to be sitting down with us right here at this table, at this microphone, and sharing a lot of knowledge with you guys during Black History Month. Today, we are very privileged and honored to have a member of the faculty over at the University of South Carolina, Dr. Bobby Donaldson. Dr. Donaldson, welcome. And for everybody who's looking online or listening on the radio, tell us a little bit about yourself.
First of all, thank you for having me here. I'm a professor of history. I'm a native of Augusta, Georgia. And presently, I am the director of the Center for Civil Rights History and Research at USC and the lead scholar for an initiative called Columbia SC 63.
We're going to get to that in just a minute, but Dr. Donaldson, since I have you here, I asked this question to a few people last year because some people asked me, is there still a need for us to recognize Black History Month every February, or has the time come and gone where we should just live and let live?
Well, I think February is a unique time to have a concentration of Black history. I'm of the belief that Black history is necessary every day, and we need to have some consistent teaching, in part because there's a lot of misinformation, miscommunication. There's a great deal of miseducation about who we are as a people. And this month is a moment to highlight that. But I think there's a need really to do a lot more correction of our history and elaborating the extraordinary struggle of Black people in this country, and most certainly here in South Carolina.
Absolutely. I found this online. 63, what is it? Columbia 63, Civil Rights, Our Story Matters. What is this?
All right, so this was a vision of Mayor Steve Benjamin. He had gone to Birmingham, Alabama, Montgomery, and Selma, and other places around the country, and saw where the history of those communities were being marketed and archived. And he realized there was an important story to be told here, and so he asked me to take on a project to really talk about the important civil rights events and individuals here in Columbia. And the more we started digging, the more we started exploring it, we realized there was a largely untold story about civil rights in Columbia. For example, we know about Rosa Parks, but very few people know that 17 months before Rosa Parks, there was a 19-year-old woman named Sarah Mae Fleming who sued the bus company in Columbia, whose lawsuit was then used as a legal precedent in the Rosa Parks case. Sarah Mae Fleming was not widely known. We know about some of the sit-ins in Greensboro and elsewhere, but we don't know about the demonstrations that occurred here in Columbia that also led to some very important Supreme Court rulings in 1963 and 1964.
Back to the Cummings. Why do you think Rosa Parks' story was so big and so prevalent in history, and we didn't hear much about her, who was right here in Columbia, South Carolina? So
Rosa Parks was an active civil rights leader at the time she was arrested. She was involved in Montgomery, which had a high-profile civil rights. There was this new preacher in town named Martin Luther King Jr. that added to that story. And also, Sarah Mae Fleming was a 19-year-old domestic worker from Eastover. She recognized the need to sue the bus company, but she did not promote herself. It was not a case that got a lot of attention, though it received some. And so it became a buried case, but a critical case in the civil rights struggle of South Carolina and the country.
Yeah, I've heard about it a couple of times, but the story is definitely not widely told. Was Columbia a hotbed for activity during that civil rights?
I think many cities were, and Columbia was not an exception to that. So when you look at the Columbia 63 map, you see sites along Main Street that today, some are high-rise buildings, some are empty lots, but they were lunch counters and drugstores 55 years ago, and that's where you had some of the major sit-ins in downtown Columbia. The State House had a major sit-in in 1961 that led to a United States Supreme Court case that overturned the convictions of young people who protested on the State House grounds.
And if people want to check out more information about this, it's fascinating. I had never even heard about it. How can they find this information?
So ColumbiaSC63.com is our website. We're also on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can find out previous events that we've done and a number of the upcoming events that we're conducting over the next several weeks.
As I talk to people, I'm finding some fascinating stories of people and their struggle here in Columbia. Is there anything that you want to tell us? Maybe a story, an untold story, a tidbit or something that would be that our listeners, our viewers might find interesting that fits right in of the civil rights struggle right here in South Carolina?
Well, it is, and it's interesting. Another reason why history is so important, some of the pioneering people that we have helped to assist in telling their story, those folks are slipping away. So if you go to the corner of Washington and Main Streets now, on one marker along Main Street, you'll see a photograph of Sarah Mae Fleming. But on the other marker, you'll see a photograph of a group of people who are voting in 1948 for the very first time as Democrats. At the front of that line is a young woman who's 39 years old at the time named Donnella Brown Wilson. Ms. Wilson voted in every election from 1948 until recent times. Friday, a week ago, she passed away at age 108 years old.
Yeah, I saw her.
But she lived long enough to tell her story, and we've been very fortunate in helping to preserve that story for future generations. And so here's a woman who was determined to vote even when those votes really did not count. She voted through the 50s and 60s. She was proud to vote in 2008. She understood that although change was not seen immediately, that she was hopeful that it would come, and it did come in her lifetime.
It absolutely did come. Fascinating lady. I got a chance to read her story. One more time, if people want to find out some information about this Columbia SC63, where do they find it?
So they can go to ColumbiaSC63.com. They can go to our Facebook account, Twitter, and Instagram, and find a lot of the material that we've done over the years, but also some of the upcoming events that are on the horizon.
What about you, Dr. Donaldson? People want to get in touch with you. How can they get in touch with you?
So they can reach me at the Center for Civil Rights History and Research at the University of South Carolina. My number is 803-777-2220.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for joining us today. And, you know, we talked at the beginning about there definitely still being a need, you feel, for Black History Month, but it's really more than that. It's just Black history.
Yeah, it's awareness. It's consciousness. It's education.
And that's what I think we're going to take away from this today. Thank you for stopping by the Big DM. We appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Tuning in and listening. It's the Big DM and thebigdm.com.